Your career, business, life, and relationships. This is the Growth to Freedom Show. Now, here is your host, Dan Kuschell.
Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that helps you transform your life, business, and relationships. I'm Dan Kuschell, and thanks for making us part of your day. We've got a great show today. We've got an expert at leadership, the founder of myemployees.com. He's a best-selling author of the book Built to Lead, 7 Management Rewards for Becoming a Top 10% Performer and Manager. Now, what does this have to do with you? You know, have you ever found in your life you've got certain things that seem to accelerate your momentum in business, to be promoted, to be advanced? And then there are some things that you and I do that are decelerated. It's almost like putting the brakes on. And I don't know about you, but I've fallen off the wagon at times. I've also crashed and burned in my ability to lead and be a top performer. Well, today, our guest expert, his name is David Long, is going to show you and guide you on the path to being a better leader, how to utilize recognition, how to stimulate engagement, to put you in a position where you're a top 10% performer. What would that mean for you? More freedom, more growth, more significance, more meaning, more purpose, right? Well, that's what we're going to do today. So our show, by the way, is presented by doneforyousolutions.com. That's doneforyousolutions.com. We'd love to connect with you on Twitter. You can follow us at Dan_Kuschell. That's Dan_Kuschell. Or you can email us at info@growthtofreedom.com. That's info@growthtofreedom.com. Or find us on iTunes at growthtofreedom.com. Now, stay tuned, because at the end of the program, we're going to talk about how we can get a special resource package in your hands that's going to give you more clarity, more capabilities, more confidence, if applied, show you how to get more independence and freedom too. So let's dive into it with our guest expert today, David Long. David, how are you today?
Fine, Dan. I'm happy to be with you.
Oh, it's an honor and a blessing, and I want to dive right into it. I know you've had an illustrious career. You've been a recognized top 10% leader in 3 different industries, running several companies. And
right.
I want to back up though a little bit, because a lot of times we talk about success and all the things that go along with that. I want to talk about, if you can remember back to a time in your career, Dave, that perhaps you would say maybe is the lowest point of your career that you went through. What happened, and what'd you learn from it, and how does it make you a better leader today doing what you do?
Well, I'm a bit hard-headed, I guess, like most entrepreneurs. So when I was working, I was actually working in the retail world, and this was about, good gracious, 29, 30 years ago. And I was actually chosen one of 7 in the top 1,200 managers for this particular company on the East Coast. And what happened is they audited me, and they told me, said, are there any policies you disagree with? And I said, yeah, there's one. And I remember the regional security guy being shocked, like, what are you talking about? What don't you agree with? And I told him, and he said, well, have you ever broken it? You have that momentary little almost lapse of sanity when you feel like, I'm busted. I better, I don't want to tell the truth here.
Yes.
But I told it anyway, and I got canned over it. And that was the best and the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, probably.
Wow, the best.
I tell people, go ahead, what were you going to say?
Yeah, the best and the worst. Talk about that.
Well, you're devastated. I'd been with the company about 5.5 years. Like I said, I was a rising star. And I remember the security guy put me on the phone with the divisional vice president of the company. And I remember the guy's name was Tom, and he cussed at me. He said, GD, David, you're one of my superstars. And he says, what in the world were you thinking? I said, well, I don't agree with the policy. And he goes, blankety blank, I don't care what you think about the policy. So anyway, they canned me and made an example out of me, and it devastated me. And from that, Dan, I went through 7 jobs in 3.5 years, and I hated everything I did. And truth be told, if I had not had my wife and 3 children, who I would never, ever dream of doing anything like that to, for a split second, it crossed my mind, just kill yourself. I felt like the old George Bailey moment on the bridge. You remember, and It's a Wonderful Life. You remember the Christmas movie?
Oh, yeah.
So that was me. I had that momentary thought, but of course I never thought of it after that. It was just a brief second. But that just devastated me, and I really hated everything I did. And ultimately had to move back home with my mother and my father and my baby brother in a 1,340 square foot house. So 8 people living in 1,340 square foot house.
Wow.
So You know, I had to put my tail between my legs, swallow my pride, and you know what? It was a blessing. It really was, because it enabled me to do what I do today. And if I had not been fired, I probably would still be a company man today.
And you teach people how to be company men and women, and you talk about engagement, you talk about being great leaders, and I mean, you demonstrate leadership through and through. I mean, you've got this incredible book called Built to Lead, 7 Management Rewards, R-E-W-A-R-D-S, for becoming a top 10% manager. Now,
right,
outside of the context of the business world, let's go back to your family, your kids, your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to ask your wife or your kids, what are the best leadership traits about David and why he does what he does, what do you think they would say about you?
I would say they would say I get it done, whatever it is. And, you know, I try to make sure that I help other people be successful while I'm getting it done. I want the whole team to win. It's not all about David Long. It's about all of us. And any true leader, you know, amplifies the efforts and the results of the people that work with them, not under them, but with them. You know, we're the face, if you will, of a particular department if we're in a manager's meeting or something like that. But it is our people that make us look good. It's called leverage. It's not manipulation, as I talk about in my book. It's motivation. And when you genuinely care about your people and you want them to be successful, you will take action to make that happen. It's a priority. And the beautiful thing about it is, when you're loyal to your people, they see that, and they will just, you know, charge hell with a water pistol, as they say. You know, they truly trust you because you have proven that you are loyal to them and you have their back.
Yeah, that's well said. And I know we've gotten a chance to know each other over the last couple years, right? We met originally through Joe Polish and Genius Network, right?
Absolutely.
And spent some time, and then have, you know, had intermittent contact over the last couple years. And you created this book, and I mean, it created a lot of buzz in the marketplace. And your company is recognized in the top, you know, 1 or 10% of all the companies in the world for its ability to engage team members the right way, right? And speaking of engagement, again, I want to take just a little bit of a slight turn outside of the company. We will come back to that, I promise.
Okay.
For your 3 kids, how old are your 3 kids now?
Oh, great day. I've got 5 grandkids, buddy. Yeah, I've got 3 children. My son is 36. My oldest daughter, who, by the way, her birthday's today, Aubrey, she's 34 today, and then my youngest is 30.
30. So as you have developed this leadership model and platform, what would you say are the leadership skills and capabilities that you've really worked hard to duplicate and replicate in your 3 kids that you're most proud of personally?
Personal responsibility, first and foremost, character and integrity. I don't believe if you don't have integrity, nobody's going to trust you. You won't be able to accomplish the things you want to have. Keep your word and take responsibility. When you're given something to do, make sure it gets done. If you're having trouble, go back immediately and say, I'm having trouble. Help me with this. Because it's terrible to go back at the last minute and say I didn't get it done. And I don't know about you, but I know you are the same way as I am on this, Dan. But if you delegate something out, you expect it to be done. You know, you're not going to go back to a person who drops the ball all the time. And my kids, I don't want my kids to be those type people. So, and of course they're not. So that's what you want. You know, you just have to make sure that you empower people, and then make sure they have the skill set and everything to do the job, and then motivate them.
That's great. That's great. And speaking of your kids, what would you say you're most proud of in their ability to replicate and duplicate what you've done and presented as leadership strategies in who they are?
They're leaders in whatever it is they do in their professions. You know, my son right now, for example, we don't have time to talk all of them, but my son Josh is up in New York right now, and he's working for a company. It's the second one he's worked with, that he actually develops communities, almost like, you know, the forums and the background where the people that are members are communicating with each other, and he gets them talking, and it's kind of like setting up meetup groups, but it's not that company, it's a different company. And he's building that online for the second company. And I think he's actually working with Revlon right now, if I'm not mistaken.
That's fantastic. Now let's get to your book. You've got your book, Built to Lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able
7 Management R.E.W.A.R.D.S principles.
Yep, rewards, right. R-E-W-A-R-D-S. And as I was going through the book itself, you know, one of the things that stood out for me in one of the chapters obviously you lead with a quote that is very famous, Zig Ziglar, if I help enough other people get what they want, I never have to worry about what you want. So talk about the rewards model. We have about 2 minutes before break, and we'll come back and spend a little bit more time as well, but dive into that first part of Zig Ziglar, helping enough other people, and how you demonstrate that.
Oh, if you make that the priority first and foremost, then you will be successful by default. And the thing is that most leaders don't realize that, they think it's all about them. But if they can build their people, motivate them, give them the skill set, as I said earlier, and then recognize them for being successful, they'll get more of that. You recognize what you want to see more of. And that's what most leaders don't realize. They tell you, Dan, you're doing a great job, but that's just poppycock, man. It doesn't do you any good. It just water off a duck's back, as they say.
Yep.
But when I say to you, Dan, thank you for getting that report done on Tuesday. I wasn't expecting until Friday. Man, that impresses me. That is specific. As Zig Ziglar even said, be specific on that. Meaningful, specific, instead of a wandering generality. So it's critical that you are specific in what you are trying to recognize, because otherwise they don't take it to heart.
Take it to heart. And speaking of taking it to heart, would you like to have a platform for you to be a better leader at home, in your church, in your community, where the rubber meets the road, where it matters most, and maybe be able to take that to your company, whether that's in the current company you're in or taking it to a new company, or maybe you want to start your own company. Maybe you want to run your own business. You're an entrepreneur at heart, right? You've got that song inside of you. You got that book inside of you that you want to get out to the world and make a difference, make an impact. Well, I'm here to share with you, David Long can show you how to be able to do just that. And let me just summarize the first segment of the show. David is the founder of myemployees.com. I encourage you to go visit him. He's got an incredible platform to be able to work with. David, you talked about one of the key traits of an entrepreneur, which we'll hit on a little bit more when we come back, which is being hard-headed, right? I think that's one of the precursors, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed, yes.
And having a sense of humor about it too, right? You just can't take any of this stuff too serious, can we?
Right, absolutely. Somebody has to be pig-headed, but you have to, like you said, you have to keep the right attitude and humor about it too, because that's what makes life fun.
Exactly. And getting it done. I mean, having the personal accountability to get things done, building a team to win. I think it comes back, you look at LeBron James, you look at Derek Jeter, who retired last year. They bring out the best in other people. And that's really what you show people how to do in a very practical, simple way. And when we come back, David's going to spend more time talking about the R.E.W.A.R.D.S system to be able to do that, to be able to help you be a top 10% performer. That and a whole lot more coming up with David Long on growth2freedom.com. Welcome back to growth2freedom.com. What if we could show you a way to be a better leader, to grow and accelerate your promotions, not only where you're at today, but potentially be able to advance and accelerate your career, whether that's in a company or starting, building, and growing your own. Well, we've got our expert today, David Long, founder of myemployees.com, and make sure to go check out what he's doing, and best-selling author of Built to Lead. And we're talking about leadership. We're talking about how you can get the best out of your ability to lead others and to also get the job done. And to summarize a little a portion of the first segment of the show, we've been talking about some of the characteristics of success, the characteristics he has taught his kids, the things he's most proud of in their leadership qualities. So, David, I'd love to dive into the Built to Lead model, right? And rewards for a top 10% performer. What does that mean? Where do we start?
Well, rewards actually stands for an acronym. And the first R is reconnaissance, or Recon as they call it in the military. And that's basically, it's similar to Jim Collins' Good to Great, where you figure out who, you got to have the right people in the bus. And the way I look at it is you start with your management team. And let's say you have 4 managers, and each of those managers represent on a tire of a car. So 4 tires. If one of those managers or one of those tires is faulty, you're going to have a flat tire. You're going to pull over the side of the road, and guess what? The other 3 managers stay there as well while you fix the bad one. So you ultimately want to have a solid team of managers or leaders, if you will, in your company. And then from there, you sit down with each of those leaders and assess how each of their team members are compared to the others and figure out which ones need to be replaced if you're going to be consistently strong as a company. You cannot have weak links.
Yep.
So that's what Recon basically. And the second part is the E, which is educate. And, that basically is broken down into two aspects for me. And that's how we met. The first one was Mastermind. And, that's where, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, they talk about meeting with other like-minded people and brainstorming on their particular issues. And I have a local CEOs group here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Matter of fact, we just met yesterday. And 6 of us. And they pay me $1,000 a month to be in there. But what we do basically is we meet for about 4 hours. And they come into the meeting with one of two things: an opportunity they're thinking of pursuing, or a challenge they face. And that's what mastermind groups are immensely powerful. And I know, Dan, most of your listeners are probably involved at some level or not in mastermind groups. And the second part is my book club meetings, which is educate your people. And like I said, that's what the E is for. So book clubs. Now, what the heck is a book club? And the first thing people have is the vision of their third grade reading group where they were scared to death to read. That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Right? You know what I'm talking about, Dan.
Yes.
So, that's what we do. Is basically about 11 years ago now, I read a book by Dr. Tony Zeiss called The 12 Essential Laws for Becoming Indispensable. And I read it and I said, holy cow, I need to share this with my employees. At the time we had 11. Today we have, I think, 54, 55 employees. And, I bought 10 more copies of the book. And I called everybody in the break room and I said, guys, here's a copy of the book, here's a highlighter, here's a notebook. I want you to read chapter 1. It happens to be on attitude. I want you to come back in here next Wednesday, and we're going to buy pizza and we're going to sit around and talk about chapter 1. And they looked at me like I had lost my mind. Nobody said anything, Dan, at all. Deer in the headlight look. So I said, do you understand what I want? And they said, yeah, but why are we doing this? I said, because I want us to grow and learn together as a group. We'll be better. And I've always told my people, the more skills that you can bring to the table, the more valuable you become. The more valuable you become, I will pay you more money. So do you understand? They said, yes. I said, all right, let's do it. So everybody came in the meeting the first time, and nobody said a cockeyed thing, man. So I started off, and I went back to when I lost my job and how it affected my attitude and everything. And one by one, people started to share. So by the third week, everybody was sharing. Nobody was holding back. And I mean, within the first month or two, we had people that would break down and really start crying about relaying a story that impacted their life from something they read in one of the chapters that we read. Because, Dan, we all read the same chapter, right?
Yep.
So, but we all have different lives. We all have different stories. So I can read the exact same thing and think of my Uncle Bill, and you can read it and think of your Aunt Judy. So we share those stories, and that's what bonded us together as a group. And I mean to tell you, that is immensely successful. Back then I basically kept them there in their lunch hour and bought the pizza and subs or whatever. But today, Dan, I've seen so much value after these 11 years that I pay each of my 54 or so employees an hour a week to sit in a room. We split it up into roughly 27 in each group, half on Wednesday morning at 10, the other half Thursday morning at 10, and we discuss that chapter or watch a DVD and discuss it. We'll watch the DVD for a half hour, turn it off, and discuss it for the last half hour. What did you get out of that? Tell me what's the lesson you learned. So we talk about it, and it has bonded us so solidly as a team that we, according to Gallup organization, are a world-class company today because of that.
Wow, that's some incredible advice. Such a simple, practical thing that we can all do. Now, what would you say to someone, David, who would go, we're too busy, we're at full momentum running our business, and, whether they're running it successfully or running it into the ground is, of course, relative. But what would you say to someone with that myth, that excuse that, I'm too busy to, have everybody take that hour out of their week to be able to do that? They need to be focused. How would you address that? Because I'm sure if you've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times.
Absolutely. And, it's exactly right. I hear it all the time. Abraham Lincoln said it best. He said, if I've got 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. Why did he say that?
Sharpen the axe, because we need to have a sharp blade going into the action.
Absolutely. And it's going to make us more effective. That's why he spent all that time sharpening. Well, let me tell you, I sharpen my people, and everything my people do, whether it's working on customer service, building plaques, doing customer surveys, whatever it is they do, they are sharper because of what we do in book club. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you this. Book club, Dan, has nothing to do with their job skills. That's another time of training. Book club is only to build them as individuals. For example, when we had 30-some employees, we read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And at the end of that time, now keep in mind, 35, 36 employees, I had 4 of my employees tell me, David, that book saved my marriage. One girl told me, she said, I realized I am the problem in my relationship with my husband, talking about herself. And 4 marriages saved. Put a price on that, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do it. Is that worth paying them an hour a week? Yes,
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
But it makes them better at every relationship in their life. Oh, by the way, and a byproduct of that is they have better relationships with the clients and prospects that they deal with. So that's how powerful that is.
That's fantastic. I mean, I see it as a way it creates engagement, it creates the bonding. And as you're watching right now, as you're listening, I mean, think of how you could put this in place. I mean, even if your company doesn't install a methodology like this, what if you created a meetup group in your local area and started doing this on your own to make you a better you, right? To do what David talked about, the Abraham Lincoln quote, which is sharpen the axe. You know, you can be effective or efficient. Do things right or do the right things. Well, guess what? By putting something like this in place, you're going to be able to distill that value. So when we come back, we're going to have David go deeper on the R.E.W.A.R.D.S system. We've covered Recon, we've covered Educate, and we've got a whole lot more coming up with David Long on growthtofreedom.com. Welcome back to growthtofreedom.com. Let's summarize the first 2 segments of the show. We've been talking about leadership, the Built to Lead model. We've been talking about R.E.W.A.R.D.S for you to be a top 10% performer. Back, what would it be worth if you could accelerate those characteristics that help you get promoted and help put the brakes on those things that don't? You have a chance to grow, to advance, to be at your very best. Our guest expert is David Long. He's the best-selling author of Built to Lead, and we've been talking about Recon, having the right people on the bus, right? About having, instead of having 3 tires and 1 flat tire, meaning you've got 3 good managers and 1 bad one, you've got to assess, you've got to replace the weak ones. You're only as strong as your weakest link. We've been talking about the power of education. If you've heard it once on this show, you've heard it 1,000 times. The power of education, right? The power of being a part of a peer group, a mentoring group, a mastermind, whatever you want to call it, where you're working with like-minded peers that challenge you. And he talked about one of the simplest practical ways that you can apply the strategy today, not tomorrow, not next week, not theoretically, today. You could start your very own book club, bring a group of people together. If you're able to do this in your company, if you're able to do this in your community, it could be in your church, to create a bonding opportunity to learn and grow and contribute together some of the core human needs that we've talked about on previous episodes on Growth to Freedom. So David, I mean, this has been fascinating. Let's continue on. We left off at R.E., so there's W-A-R-D, and then we had Ramon, who's our sound engineer, and we have our video engineer, Matt, who wanted me to make sure to share a couple questions with you that we'll weave in here throughout the show too.
Okay. All right, W is the next one in the REWARDS acronym. And basically what that stands for is Winners Emerge. And we tie that back with book club, because this is how huge of an impact it is. And when I say winners emerge, I'm going to give an illustration now. We have a young man named Josh Straw, who has been with us about 5 years now. Very introverted individual, immensely, painfully introverted. Works back in one little corner in a production facility. And of course, I make it mandatory, Dan, that every person has to come to book club. And, of course, if you're introverted, you know that's painful.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to talk. And I force my people to grow. And what we did basically over the course of about, through roughly a year of Josh being in our book club meetings, occasionally, the leaders always lead the book club, but occasionally we ask for some of the employees, the team members, who would like to lead book club. I happened to be in California, Yosemite National Park, and I got a call from my manager, my COO, Adam Tart, who's been with me for 18 years. He's my right arm. And he tells me, guess who wants to lead book club? And I said, who? And he said, Josh Straw. I said, Josh Straw? Are you kidding me? And I said, don't you dare let him lead it till I get back. So anyway, so when I got back from vacation, Josh got up and did it, and I remember, Dan, it was so funny because he's up there and he's talking, and his voice is doing okay, but the book in his hand is shaking like a leaf in the wind. But he did such a great job, and I was so proud of him. I bragged on him. I went up there after it was over, and I put my arm around him in front of, the other 20-some employees in that particular group, and I just said, this is what book club is all about. This is how you build your people, and you make them better tomorrow than they are today. And I said, it took great courage for Josh to do this, but this is what winning teams are made of, are people who do things that are uncomfortable. That's what, they don't write books about people that walk on trails. They write books about people who blaze them. So, Josh, very good job. So that's what winners emerge. You build the people. You turn them into more than they are when they walk in the door. Make them something. And by the way, don't go cheap and think that, I can't afford to do book club. If they're working 40 hours a week and you take 1 hour and you make them more effective on the 39 that are left, come on. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. That's worthwhile. You magnify the results of everything else they do. And by the way, we did Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University in there. I help my people learn how to manage their money better. And if they're not focused on debt collectors calling them at the office, they're going to be a lot more effective employees, aren't they, Dan?
Absolutely. And when you're a better you, when you're able to be true to what it is you're focused on without distraction, there's no limit to what you can achieve. You have greater purpose, greater meaning, greater contribution, growth, achievement. And with that, David, real quick before we go to the next break here, Ramon had asked, and I think it ties in with what you just described, winners emerge. Are winners born or are they made?
Some people are predisposed to be more winners naturally, but yes, they can be made. If they're taught and they apply the things that I teach in my book, absolutely they can become leaders, successful ones.
And in fact, when we come back, we're going to go more into the reward system. We've got Recon, Educate, Winners Emerge. We're going to talk about the A.R.D.S. and how you can apply it to be your best self for greater leadership, acceleration, promotion, growth, contribution, and a whole lot more with David Long on growthtofreedom.com. Welcome back to growthtofreedom.com. Let's summarize the first three segments of the show. We've got David Long. We've been talking about R.E.W.A.R.D.S, rewards, built to lead, systems and strategies you can put in place to be in the top 10% as a performer, as a leader, as a manager, doing what you do. I mean, what would it be worth to you to be a better you? David shared something in one of the last segments about when you are more valuable, the more valuable you become, the more money you can make. How much more valuable do you want to become? So would it be worth it to learn to be able to apply the rewards system that David's talking about? I vote yes. In fact, I say yes right now for this because you deserve it. You're a winner. You're a champion. So with that being said, David, one of the questions that our video engineer asked, Matt Seipel, he says, how important is attitude? And I think this ties in extremely well with the next part of your formula, which I'm aware of, but he wasn't. So I'd love you to hit on the importance of attitude as it relates to leadership, getting things done, the difference between being open as a leader and then being firm in making decisions. Tie all that together, and we'll move it.
All righty. Attitude is extremely critical. It is the platform from which everything else is done. My father passed away 2 years ago, but before that, he was for 55 years, he was a Baptist pastor. And I remember my dad telling me when I was about 15 or 16, he said, son, your attitude is like a piece of glass or a prism, if you will, that you hold up, and whatever you see through it, if it's clear, that everything you see through it is clear. But if you drop it in the mud or the dirt and you pick it back up, everything you see through it is dirty or cloudy. So if you have a bad attitude, you can say the exact same thing to two different employees, one with a good attitude, one with a bad attitude. The one with a good attitude is going to take it and knows you care about them and they want to make sure they improve. The one with a bad attitude is going to say, why are you picking on me for? People are always picking on me, and they just bring more doom and gloom on themselves. So it is critical that attitude is, great day, in line with what you want to accomplish. Do not whine. No one likes to have whiners around you, period. So attitude is critical if you want to be successful. Have a good one.
Have a great one. You know, when I interviewed Brian Tracy here not too long ago, he said that good is the enemy of excellence. So I want to challenge all of you as you're watching right now, as you're listening, strive for excellence in everything you do. Good is just good enough, but excellence will take you over the top. So attitude. So we've got Recon, educate. The winners emerge. Attitude. What's the next step?
The second R is for recognition, which you figure since that's our industry.
Yes.
But we definitely, recognition is huge, because here's the thing. Gallup organization said, and they've surveyed this for thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees, and in that survey, 65% of employees, Dan, said they had received no recognition from their manager in the last year. Oh, my soul.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's how bad it is. And by the way, 70% of employees are either actively disengaged or disengaged. Now, disengaged means they don't really care about the company. They could care less. Give me my paycheck and leave me alone. Actively disengaged means they're going in the opposite direction from where you want to go. They're pulling against you. If you go to my book's website at top10manager.com, that's the number 10, top10manager.com, and go to the resources page. On the right-hand side is a poster I had my graphics guy create for me. It's 10 Clydesdales pulling a jackass sitting down. That's a world-class company. You check it out, Dan. It's hilarious. And I had a few of them blown up, so it's really cool. But 10 Clydesdales pulling that jackass sitting down. And that's the world-class companies, 10-to-1 ratio of engaged to disengaged employees. But right below it is 2 Clydesdales pulling that same jackass. Now, the 2 Clydesdales is the average U.S. company. That's how many people are disengaged in the average U.S. company. The problem with that is 47%, according to Gallup again, of your best employees are looking to leave you right now because of 2 things. You put up or tolerate with that jackass being on the team. And secondly, you don't recognize them. Between the 2 things, those 2 problems of not recognizing and tolerating incompetence on the team, they get frustrated. Superstars, Dan, like you and I, we get aggravated having to deal with losers.
Yes.
So we bolt. We leave. So that's what's going to happen. So 47%, not your worst people, Dan, your best people. You know, so recognition is huge. Let me tell you a prime example. I learned this years ago, and of course, you know, you want to practice what you preach. So we naturally do a lot of recognition in my company. But I remember back about, great day, it's been probably 20 years ago, I have salespeople with me, and I remember I had 2 salespeople, and I wanted to have competition between them. So I bought this, Dan, a $15 little bulldog on a wood base, and I put Big Dog, DAWG, of the week on that little trophy. Do you know, Dan, and I changed nothing else. This is how powerful recognition is. I changed nothing else within the company and the processes. But those 2 people averaged between them $805 more per week in sales. Dan, that's $80,000 a year.
Yep.
From a $15 trophy. Oh, my soul. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's how powerful it is. People want significance. If they don't get it from you, they're going to go somewhere else until they get it. And, oh, by the way, you want a loyal team? Show them that they matter. Show them that they are significant, and they will stay there forever. And that's how you build a successful company, not having to reinvent the stinking wheel every year or 2 with new people. You got to retrain to get right back up to where you were because you lost good people. And don't be afraid to recognize them because, if I do that, they'll ask me for more money. No, they won't, because you'll be making more money and you give it to them. That's the thing. You know, the beautiful thing is, it's easy to, I tell my people, it's so easy for me to give you a raise out of profit. That's what I do. You know, it's huge. And I tell my people, be more and I'll pay you more. First things first. You do not go to the fireplace, Dan, and say, give me heat and then I'll give you some wood.
Yep,
do you?
that's right.
You don't go to the field and say, give me crops and then I'll give you some seeds. First things first. And your people, if they want more money, I say, show me that you've increased your value to me, and I will give you more. Matter of fact, my management team will tell you. I will ask them, how's Bill doing? You know, I haven't heard you mention him in a while. Is it time to bump him up? Because I love to give my people raises. So if you have that attitude, and it's easy to pay people more out of profit, so do what you need to do to get more profits. Everything else take care of itself.
And as you're listening right now, I hope you're taking this wisdom. I mean, these are little hinges that swing big doors. I've heard Joe Polish talk about frequently. Right. I mean, it also reminds me of a book I read some time ago, So Good They Can't Ignore You. In other words, make yourself invaluable. You want to make yourself more valuable, in fact, invaluable. You want to be the champion you deserve to be, to get the raises, the promotions, the accolades, the recognition. Well, guess what? Follow what Dave is teaching. R, Recon. E, educate. W is the winner, emerge, attitude, build a recognition model, and a whole lot more. I mean, this is just some great advice. And you know what? As you're watching, as you're listening, if you're a leader right now, and whether this is at home or in your company, if you don't provide significance, meaning, and purpose, they'll go somewhere else, which is what David is talking. And they'll either do it through productivity to gain that significance, or they'll do it through politics, right? And David, you've probably seen there's a big difference between productivity and being in politics or being busy. And folks, we want to show you how to be the best you can be. Now, David, I know we're going to run short here, and I know if people want to learn more about you and all the incredible things that you're doing, get access to your book, where can people go to learn more about you? I want to make sure we spend the time, and then certainly we can come back. I'll ask you some rapid fire questions too. Okay, sure. We got 2 principles left, but obviously we won't have time to get those. But they can reach me at davidlong@top10manager.com. And by the way, if they go to Amazon and buy the hardback copy of my book, send me an email at that email address of davidlong@top10manager.com. I'll send them the Kindle version for free. Oh, and I'll send them the workbook that I wrote to make sure they maximize what they learn. And you've got a copy of that, Dan. It makes sure that you internalize what you read. And that's the key. Nothing happens until you take action. And I'll send them that Kindle version, which sells for $10, and the workbook that sells for $8 for free, if they'll send me an email with their receipt from Amazon buying the hardback copy. So I want to encourage you to go to Amazon to get Dave's book. Send him an email at davidlong@top10manager.com. You can go learn more about the book at top10manager.com. And by the way, that's top10, type in the number, top10manager.com. Again, his email is davidlong@top10manager.com. He's got some gifts for you, resources to go with that when you get the book, so make sure to reach out to him to be able to do that. So David, what is it that you're passionate about right now? Some of the things that you're working on for your legacy, for your future growth, future business. Well, we're up 30% this year. My company, like I said, we're a gazelle company. Any company that grows by 20% for 4 or 5 years in a row, we've been doing that for 50 years. It's classified, not 50, 15. I haven't been along that long. So I get a little ambitious. I'm thinking ahead. That's good. But that's what we do. I mean, that's how successful you want to keep building upon success after success. And that's what we do, and that's what my focus is. But I also build my people. And from that, I told you I started my mastermind group for CEOs. I'm actually going to expand that. I'm not really, going to get up into the 25K group like Joe does, and you are, Dan. But I want to be able to do it in my area. I want to help people be more successful. I just scheduled a new vacation 2 days ago, and it's my 27th week off this year. And I know we got a chance to talk about that the other day, right? So talk about some of your strategies as far as the work-life balance, right? Your perspective on it, and how others can apply it in what they do as well. The beautiful thing about building a solid team is, guess what? You don't have to be there all the time. So I'm not. I have competent people, and they prove their competence and their loyalty and their trust and their dependability, which is the greatest ability is dependability. I don't have to worry about it. I can go to Europe. I've been to like 17 countries there. I've been in every state in the country. I got a motor coach. My wife and I rode our Harley Davidson cross-country, ocean to ocean in 2005, 6.5-week trip. I don't worry about my company one iota. I'm actually sitting upstairs in my Frog right now to do this interview. I didn't even go in the office today. I rarely go in 5 to 7 hours a week when I'm in town. I mean, the only time I do is I work on my people. Remember, Abraham Lincoln said, "Sharpen my axe." That's what I do. My people are my axe. That's fantastic. I mean, you're a guy who walks the talk, right? So not only do you talk about leadership, but you demonstrate it. For you, the quality of life balance. I mean, you shared a story with me we don't have time to go into right now, but you took one of your team members or partners on a week-long trip. They wouldn't have normally been able to do it themselves, but you just took them because you just wanted to, right? And you wanted to have that extra bonding time. And I mean, that's what you demonstrate overall. So what would you say, Dave, what's something I should have asked you that I haven't asked you yet, just out of curiosity?
Oh, I don't know that there's anything particular other than I just need to emphasize, if you really want to be successful, go back to Zig Ziglar's quote, man. To get what you want in life, you got to help other people get what they want first. Oh, man, it's just so sweet. It just radically, when you practice that and live it and breathe it, it just changes your life in such a phenomenal way.
Just a moment away. Now, what would you say, David, are the top 1 or 2 or 3 reasons people fail as a leader?
Well, they don't read. They don't continue to educate themselves. I read 3 to 4 hours every day. Even when I'm on vacation, my wife gets aggravated at me sometimes. But it's something that I need to do. I constantly learn. It's one of the number one things I care about. And some of the personality things, the number one thing that I am was a thinker, and I'm strategic. These are various things like that, disc profiles and things. I mean, I am always strategizing for the next day, the next week, the next year, and that's how you're successful. I hope for the best, Dan, but I plan for the worst. I have contingency plans. Brian Tracy at the 25K group, the video that Joe shared with everybody, that's one of the things he said. What's the worst can happen? Figure out how to handle that and focus on going and just producing. And then you're covered either way. And the beautiful thing is, and it talks about this in the Bible, if you have an anxious mind, you're worried about everything. You don't get anything done.
That's so true.
It is. And when you figure out the worst that can happen and you plan for it and cover for it, it's amazing what you can get accomplished.
No doubt about it. And speaking of accomplishment, we want you to accomplish more. And Dave, I just want to say it's a blessing, it's a privilege, it's an honor. That's our show actually for today. I want to thank you for taking the time to share with our listeners, our viewers. I mean, I feel better for it, and I think we're all better for it. So Dave, thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you, Dan. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Awesome. And I appreciate you as you're watching, listening right now. Now is your time. Take action. Make sure to go visit David. Apply what he's been talking about. Take the first step. You can get a recap of the show at growthtofreedom.com/30, growthtofreedom.com/30. And I want to encourage you, apply what he's been sharing with you. Seize the day. Make it a great week. We'll see you next time on growthtofreedom.com.